Can I add to that? I think the time has come that the United States and our neighbors, particularly our neighbor to the south, should have a better understanding and a better relationship than we've ever had. And I think that we haven't been sensitive enough to our size and our power. They have a problem of 40 to 50% unemployment. Now, this cannot continue without the possibility arising with regard to that other country that we talked about, of Cuba and what it is stirring up, of the possibility of trouble below the border, and we could have a very hostile and strange neighbor on our border. Rather than making them or talking about putting up a fence, why don't we work out some recognition of our mutual problems, make it possible for them to come here legally with a work permit, and then while they're working and earning here, they pay taxes here. And when they want to go back, they can go back, and they can cross and open the border both ways.
Hey YouTube world, harvest is plenty. I hope all is well. Thanks for stopping by to check out the video. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure that you click the subscription button. So today is October 30th, 2023. I want to put this video up for you guys because with the geopolitical conflict that's going on in the Middle East, and we're edging closer and closer every day towards World War III, there's a lot of talk across social media. You know, we're talking YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and Twitter, and all of this stuff about border protection, border security. A lot of people say things like, well, the Biden administration is failing at providing border security, and with open borders, anybody could just come through and come across and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you've heard that, and many of you who listen to this video, you probably have said it yourself. I've did a couple videos on my old channel about Chinese nationals coming across, Russian nationals coming across, people from the Middle East coming across, you know, a lot of things like that. The cartel members who coming across. Actually, the cartel members are already operating in our U.S. cities. They have dedicated and proven smuggling routes, so they can get anything across. Another thing that may be another video for another time that most people refuse to talk about is that many of our government officials and our law enforcement personnel actually work for the cartels. The cartels are paying them money to look the other way so they can get cargo and shipments across the border. That is truth that nobody want to talk about, that law enforcement is being paid off by cartels to get stuff over. You know, and people just want to turn a blind eye to that. But the intro, that was Ronald Reagan, 1980. Republican guy talking about open borders. And before anybody try to jump down my throat and refute me and leave me some nasty comments, listen, Republicans and Democrats are both two wings on the same New World Order bird. You know, when you look down the body of the bird, you see the names there: Rockefellers, Trilateralists, Bilderbergers, Federal Reserve, Bohemian Grovers, and Council on Foreign Relations people. When someone becomes a president, it doesn't matter if they're a Republican president or a Democratic president, they surround themselves with members from those groups. Those are those cabinet members. They're advisors. They take people who belong to these various groups and many others that I didn't mention, and they make them ambassadors to these different countries. They make them Secretary of States and Secretary of Treasury and Department Transportation Secretary and all of this stuff. They get Secretary of Commerce. Those people from those groups they're part of the Klaus Schwab's Global Young Leaders Program. They join the cabinet and they become leaders for these groups. And it's all about creating a one world government. As I said before, when you look at the big picture, not just the micro picture, the red and the blue, but look at the big picture, one world government. Not only is it about creating one world religion, one world currency, and one world government. When you look at if you want to look at the micro stuff, part of it is destroying national sovereignty. You got to erase the national sovereignty and the national identity of the people. So that's the reason for the mass immigration movements, not only in America, but in Europe and other places. You bring a whole bunch of people in from another country, and they erase the national identity of your country. They erase the national identity of your values and everything like that. And that's what's going on with America. That's why they're bringing in all these people into America, and they're keeping the borders open. it's part of what was called a North American Union that they're trying to create, which will lead to a one world government. When Ron Paul was in office and he was running for Republican president, he was asked that question during the Republican debate, and he explained it perfectly.
Good evening, candidates. This is Seekser from Arlington, Texas, and this question is for Ron Paul. I've met a lot of your supporters online, but I've noticed that a good number of them seem to buy into this conspiracy theory regarding the Council of Foreign Relations and some plan to make a North American Union by merging the United States with Canada and Mexico. These supporters of yours seem to think that you also believe in this theory. So my question to you is, do you really believe in all this, or are people just putting words in your mouth?
90 seconds.
Well, it all depends on what you mean by all of this. The CFR exists, the Trilateral Commission exists, and it's a, quote, conspiracy of ideas. This is an ideological battle. Some people believe in globalism, others of us believe in national sovereignty. And there is a move on toward a North American Union, just like early on there was a move on for a European Union, and it eventually ended up. So we had NAFTA and moving toward a NAFTA highway. These are real things. It's not somebody made these up. It's not a conspiracy. They don't talk about it, and they might not admit about it, but there's been money spent on it. There was legislation passed in the Texas legislature unanimously to put a hold on it. They're planning on millions of acres taken by eminent domain for an international highway from Mexico to Canada, which is going to make the immigration problem that much worse. So it's not so much a secretive conspiracy. It's a contest between ideologies, whether we believe in our institutions here, our national sovereignty, our Constitution, or are we going to further move in the direction of international government, more UN? You know, this country goes to war under UN resolutions. I don't like big government in Washington. So I don't like this trend toward international government. We have a WTO that wants to control our drug industry, our nutritional products. So I'm against all that, but it's not so much as a sinister conspiracy. It's just knowledge is out there. If we look for it, you'll realize that our national sovereignty is under threat.
Congressman Paul, thank you. I don't have to tell you.
Is there a plan for a new world order, a one world government, and how do we stop it?
Well, I think even our first President Bush said that the New World Order was in tune, and that's what they were working for. The UN is part of that government. They're working right now very significantly for a North American Union. That's why there's a lot of people in Washington that don't care too much about our borders. They have a philosophic belief that national sovereignty is not important. It's also the reason I have made very strong suggestion that we need not be in the United Nations for our national security.
What do you think about our borders and the immigration policy?
Our borders have been totally neglected. We worry more about the borders between North and South Korea and between Iraq and Syria than we do about our own.
Absolutely. So yeah, guys, it's conspiracy fact. It's not theory. I mean, it is what it is, and it sucks because a lot of people, you know, they're stuck into identity politics. Republicans, Democrats, red versus blue, blah, 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 blah. That's how they have the people divided. The people are divided based on that and divided based on a whole bunch of other things. But at the top, at the big table, you know, they're serving a different master. The politicians are not beholden to the American people. They're beholden to their Illuminati and their satanic Luciferian masters to create a one world government. Yes, I get it about border security and border protection and how that's actually needed. You know, they caught nationals coming in through Florida. See right here, Florida Highway Patrol assists in apprehension of 17 Chinese nationals following illegal landing in Key Largo. This is dated October 24th, 2023. And so it's not just Texas, they're coming across the border, and Arizona, New Mexico, and Tijuana coming in through California. They're coming in through the Florida coast as well, and they're sneaking in. As a matter of fact, a lot of Chinese nationals are now appearing all over the Caribbean islands, and people are starting to complain about that. How come all these Chinese people are now, you know, in the Caribbean islands? And a lot of other different ethnicity groups from other countries are appearing all of a sudden into the Caribbean islands. Where are all these people coming from and why? So there's a plan afoot to create havoc and chaos in America so they can suspend the Constitution. You know, once they declare martial law, the Constitution is suspended. Talking about nationwide martial law. The Constitution is suspended. Your first, your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, your seventh, all the amendments, constitutional amendments, that'll be done. And it's all part of creating a new world order, a one world government. You have Ronald Reagan, and then you got Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. All three of those guys are Republicans. Republican presidents, they are all Bohemian Grovers. They're all part of the Council of Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commissions as well. Then you bring in Obama, and then you bring in Biden. And they're carrying out the same policies, and they're Democrats. They're carrying out the same policies as their supposedly Republican adversaries or enemies. And as I said before, they are not enemies. On TV, they get in there and they debate and they say these things, and they make you think that they're enemies so you can be divided against other people who vote, for a different political party. But behind the scenes, they all sit at the table, and they all have a master who guides them and tells them what to do to create this new world order, this one world government. They had a plan to create a North American Union, the way the European Union took over Europe and got rid of the borders in Germany, France, and all of that, and combined all the currency, to the euro. They had a plan not had a plan, they still do have the plan to erase the borders completely at the south between the United States and Mexico, and the north at Canada, and to combine the landmass and call it a North American Union. Now, a lot of people look at the physical components of that, but as I said before, the New World Order is a spiritual movement. Nothing happens in the physical unless it happens in the spiritual first. And so the New World Order, as I said in many of my videos, is being led by Lucifer and the 1/3 of the fallen angels who were kicked out of heaven, being raised from the second heaven, and they're preparing this one world government so they can come back on earth and reign how they did in the pre-flood world. That's what the New World Order is about, the one world government, allowing the son of perdition or the Antichrist to come on the earth and claim he is God and demand worship and demand everybody to take his mark. And these politicians in the Republican and the Democratic Party are working towards that end. They're working toward fulfilling the great work of Nimrod. He started it in Babylon. That was the first one world government. God came, destroyed the Tower of Babel, scattered the people so they wasn't able to complete their plan. So they created the League of Nations that became the United Nations to unite all the nations back, all the people back together under one rule, under one religion, under one currency, under one government. And they're going to turn it all over to the beast so he can be worshipped and everybody's going to take his mark. That's what it's all about, guys. A one world government. So that's why we have an open border, because if we have an open border, and I can't even remember if I said it already, but with these sleeper cells and all this stuff coming across the border, they're going to use their attack as a pretext to create martial law in America. So these people come on over. The U.S. probably, is orchestrating the plan, or somebody's orchestrating the plan for these sleeper cells to attack and blow up some stuff. Problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem by blowing up a whole bunch of stuff and attacking the American people. The people are going to cry, oh, we need something to be done. I don't care what you do. We need something to be done. Suspend all the, take away all our freedoms until you find these terrorists, because I don't want to die. We're willing to give up our freedoms for a little bit of security. And so that's going to be the reaction from the people, and they're going to step in with the solution and create this one world government. It's all an orchestrated plan by design. North American Union, one world government. But just wanted to drop this video off to you guys so you guys can understand what's going on. I love you guys. Stop being suckered and fooled by these people. A lot of it is cognitive dissonance. Your personal identity has been wrapped up in becoming a Republican or a Democrat, and that's what you stand for because you're either liberal or conservative, and you say, well, my values, you know, is closely aligned to the Democratic Party, or my personal values is closely aligned to the Republican Party. That's cool. I'm not debating you on that. I don't want to argue or debate with you on that. What I'm saying is that you're being tricked and you're being fooled, and that both parties are working together to create a new world order. And that's why things are not changing. And I just want you to understand that. That's all. I love you guys. I will continue to pray for you guys. You guys pray for me and my family. Stay alert. Put Jesus first, because he loves you more than anything in the world. He paid a price when he gave his life to atone for your sins. Always remember that. All right. Till my next video. God bless you.
And they are doing a damn good job of it. In 2005, an arrangement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States was made. This arrangement, unannounced to the public, unregulated by Congress, merges the United States, Mexico, and Canada into one entity, erasing all borders. It's called the North American Union, and you might want to ask yourself why you've never heard of this. In fact, there is only one mainstream reporter who has actually heard of and has had the courage to cover this issue.
The Bush administration's open borders policy and its decision to ignore the enforcement of this country's immigration laws is part of a broader agenda. President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it, and he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
It's a deal that few have even heard of.
It's being done again by very few people at the very top on behalf of the investment class, but the working class of people, political officials across our country, from communities, from cities and so forth, they don't know anything about this.
This isn't some trade agreement. It is a total removal of sovereignty from these countries, which will also result in a completely new currency called the Amero.
Fall. Apart from that, I think one thing people who are dollar-based need to focus on is the Amero. That's the one thing that nobody's talking about that I think is going to have a big impact on everybody's life in Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. The Amero is the proposed new currency for the North American community, which is being developed right now between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico to make a borderless community, much like the EU, and the dollar, Canadian dollar, U.S. dollar, and the Mexican peso replaced by the Amero.
By default of this agreement, the American Constitution will eventually be obsolete. You would think that a situation like this would be on the cover of every major newspaper. That is until you realize that the people who are behind this movement are the same people behind the mainstream media, and you are not told what you're not supposed to know. The North American Union is the same concept as the European Union, the African Union, and the soon-to-be Asian Union, and the same people are behind all of them. And, when the time is right, the North American Union, the European Union, the African Union, and the Asian Union will be merged together, forming the final stages of a plan these men have been working on for over 60 years. A one-world government. One bank, one army, one center of power. And if we have learned anything from history, it is that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.